Okay, we did something completely new to finish out season 3. We did a two-parter. This is originally our top story from episode 97. Leon and I went way too long on this discussion and put away a lot of Brown in the process. We decided to split it up into a few pieces to spare the Bobs out there, so we now present to you episode 99, taken from episode 97, in two parts. This is part 2.
Danny, this is a never-ending show.
You got time? You're a bachelor.
Oh, I don't give a shit. I'll talk all night.
Fun fact. Have you ever read World War Z?
I've seen parts of the movie.
Not the
and
movie.
that's all I can
Stop
give
it.
you.
Not the movie.
I don't read unless it's like Dan Brown.
Listen, I have
or the
never
guy who
hated
wrote-
you in my entire life. I don't want to start now. I want you to take the movie and I want you to put the movie over here.
I believe you because that Martian movie, the book is a million times better. So I'm buying this.
All
I'm
right.
buying what you're telling me now.
The book, World War Z.
Mm-hmm.
It was written by Mel Brooks's kid. It's very
it's got to be
intelligent.
awesome.
The audiobook is 120% entertaining.
Who's the voice?
He gets like 26 voice actors to do the audiobook.
Oh, okay.
It's absolutely amazing. 100% recommended. He nailed every step of the pandemic.
Mm.
The place where you had to stop was the dead come alive and start walking across the earth. But every single step until then was spot on, and he wrote the book in 2005.
Amazing.
So for you Bobs out there, check it out. In World War Z, written by Max Brooks, the virus originates in China. We got a pretty good idea of where, but we don't know. It
Wuhan.
spreads from China to the neighboring countries. China tries to cover it up. It happens during a religious holiday. Eventually, it makes its way to all the countries in the world. They start to fight over it. They blame each other. They start to do lockdowns. All of a sudden, the West comes out and goes, we can't do all of this because of economic security. And so they delay lockdowns. They hide the science, and they want to keep the peace because they don't want to panic. Eventually, the panic hits everybody, and the panic goes country to country methodically until everybody gets sick. Now, in the book, sick means the dead come alive and hijinks ensue. But if you look at like the first 6 or 7 chapters of World War Z, it is spot on exactly the pandemic. And I think in 20 years, when we finally have everything teased out and all the people that were involved are dead and on their deathbed, they go, I should have spilled the beads. In fucking 2040, we're going to get the full story and we're going to look back and go, yeah, well, okay. What we're looking at right now, fewer Americans now say science has had a mostly positive effect on society is because the people in power that wanted to keep peace leveraged science as their justification for controlling the population. You fucked science in the ass.
Danny, preach. That was powerful.
Anybody that says trust the science has a little bit of the Matrix in them, because science is to question. And if you don't question, you're not doing science right. Have you beat this horse?
Horse is dead.
Horse is dead! Oh, buddy. You're going to love this one. A majority of Americans say TikTok is a threat to national security.
Mm.
About 6 in 10 adults, 59%, see the social media platform as a major or minor threat to national security in the United States. Just 17% say it is not a threat to national security, and another 23% aren't sure. Views vary by partisanship and age. 7 in 10 Republicans and GOP leaners see TikTok as at least a minor threat to national security, compared with 53% of Democrats and Democrat leaners. Conservative Republicans are more likely than moderate or liberal Republicans, or Democrats of any ideology, to say they view the app as a major threat. So I say to you, sir, is TikTok a threat?
I don't have TikTok. I'll be a neutral party here. I've seen whatever they call it, the vines or the cuts or whatever from TikTok, people that share with me. I know that it's a China-owned company. I know that China has influence over it. I know that China doesn't care for the West very much. I don't know. I just think it's another social media platform, and I don't think of it that way. So I'm less concerned about it. I don't have it. I think it's dumb, but people that do have it, I don't know that it's a national security threat. So that's how I feel. I don't know. How do you feel?
I look at TikTok the way I look at Twitter. I'm not on it. I don't care.
Okay.
I understand.
You're not on Twitter at all?
No. I never give a shit about Twitter. The whole thing about Twitter to me was you can share what you want to say in 140 characters. And my first admission was, I don't have that much to talk about. You're an asshole. So it makes a lot of sense to me that politicians and journalists would embrace Twitter because, you have information to share and you want to share in as pithy a form as possible. That's perfectly makes sense to me. Absolutely 100%. Twitter is the bastion of people who talk for a living. I cornered myself there.
Maybe you should be on Twitter.
I do not want to say short-lived things to express myself, which is why I opted for a podcast instead. So I release my thoughts in 45-minute increments rather than 140 characters. So my sense of 140 characters at a time with Twitter was, shut the fuck up.
Yeah.
I mean, the kind of, so I want you to indulge me here, Leah. Twitter is what, 10, 12 years old, 14 years old? How old do you think Twitter is?
No, it's older than that. I feel like I got on Twitter about 10 years ago. And then literally, I don't know that I've tweeted more than 5 times in my whole life personally. What I like about Twitter is that I just follow, like I said earlier, sports figures, and I get sports news quickly. I feel like news happens faster on Twitter than it does waiting for the mainstream media or whoever's going to digest it and regurgitate it to me. It comes faster that way.
So I do appreciate on Twitter.
Yeah, they are. They're watching Twitter. Twitter isn't a live feed of things that are happening now.
Yeah.
So it's nice to get that raw format. A lot of times I know before even like Fox News reports it, or CNN reports it, or MSNBC reports it. I'm way ahead of them because it came on Twitter. So I appreciate that. TikTok has a stigma because it's a Chinese company. I think personally that there are actual national security threats associated with it. I'm not going to pretend like there aren't, because I don't trust China, especially in the last 3 weeks. I don't know if you've been paying attention. There has been a huge uncovering of digital attacks against the United States, not through TikTok. I'm just saying, period. So I think that China has a lot of incentive to take over whatever they can from a digital perspective. The platform itself, for what it is, I don't know. I guess I'm too old to consider it important to me because it seems to be more with the younger generation. It's about dancing and really quick videos and things that end up, if they're really good, they end up on Instagram or on X anyway. So I don't know. That's how I feel. Yeah, our buddy Sal loves it. Like he's constantly on it. He sends me videos all the time from TikTok.
From Trickster? Oh, TikTok.
Yeah. He loves it.
So I appreciate what you said about I get the news before anybody else. I am the opposite. I am very tired of third page, deeply embedded paragraphs that say, here's a retraction because we fucked up. And so I purposefully don't get my news in the moment.
That's fair.
And I think why it's a philosophical decision. I don't want news in the moment. I want vetted, discussed, philosophized news. So when I think about it a week later after it happened, because again, the fucking shit is not going to happen to me. If it's going to happen to me, I check the weather. The weather's going to happen to me. There is no governmental decision, as far as I'm aware, that's going to happen anywhere inside 6 weeks. So do I need to know about it right now? That's my problem with news as a medium, is when the news is for profit, reality is for sale. And you can quote me on that. That is my issue. So
okay.
I like that. Knowing the news right now, I have a serious problem with. So I will be at odds with the type of people, my own family members included. I will be at odds with the type of people that want their news right now.
What are you going to do with it? Oh, now that you know that Pete Rose is dead right now, what are you going to do with that information?
It can fucking wait.
Yeah,
you're
right.
My perspective. So I wait until I get a newsletter at the end of the week that's been digested. I can look at it and go, all right, I get it. I'm going to look that up. I don't need breaking news right now. I think that really appeals to the Americans' sense of urgency. And I think that's a psychological thing, which, again, makes money. But I get back to the whole problem of if the news is for profit, reality is for sale. So I hate Twitter. I hate TikTok. The only reason I go for Instagram, which, as you know, is one of the only platforms I'm on, the only reason I hate Instagram is because you can't include links. You have to dive. So Instagram is largely visual. So in this case, a majority of Americans say TikTok is a threat to national security. Well, maybe you should hit the pause button and think about it and decide whether or not it fucking matters to you. There's a lot of shit going on around the world. It's going to take at least 12 to 18 months to affect you. Don't you want to sit and think about it first?
Yeah.
Let me give you a good what if, and I invite your pushback.
I'll take it.
You ready?
Mm-hmm.
All right. COVID erupted March 2020.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Your standard supply chain has an 18-month lag. You with me so far?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. The states that opened first, Florida, Carolinas, West Virginia, the Dakotas, red states, to be fair, red states. Once they opened, they started the 18-month clock. The blue states, which stayed locked down, chief among them is California.
Mm-hmm.
So California's last. You with me so far?
Mm-hmm.
I want you to plot an 18-month timeline from the opening of Florida to the closing of California.
I don't understand. Why opening to Florida, closing California?
I'm sorry. You're right. Too much brown. The opening of Florida to the opening of California.
Okay.
Plot an 18-month post plan.
All right.
If you were to put that on a line graph, I believe you're going to get a heavy correlation with inflation.
It'd be interesting to see.
My thesis, and I know you're a data guy, my thesis is if you looked at inflation from the moment of March 2020 to now, and you overlaid when Florida opened plus 18 months to when California opened plus 18 months. And that's my knowledge of understanding. For those of you Bobs out there, fucking keep me honest, but my understanding is Florida opened first because of Ronnie D, and California opened last because of Gavin. If you look at that paradigm, watch inflation. And my guess is Florida opened plus 18 months is when inflation dropped. And that has everything to do with supply chain. Once the gates open, supply comes in, and then you have your standard supply-demand curves.
What's the most expensive? What's the highest expense for most households?
I would say energy.
The highest monthly expense. You're going to say energy?
Rent?
Yeah. Rent, mortgage. That's what it is.
Rent, go.
Rent, mortgage, household. That's what it is. California basically told all its citizens, we're going to pay for rent. Don't worry about it. But they didn't have any means to do that. So that was a different It was a disruptor when it comes to inflation. And it really fucked up the economy because it didn't know what to do. It's like economies are based on debts owed and debts paid. And it wasn't happening, but there's promises made that were going to happen and no legal action could be taken to collect. It was this whole new world that no one's ever lived in, especially in the US.
Right. There's never been a stop of anything.
Yeah. It was just, hey, this most major thing, that the most major cost everyone has, your housing, we're just pausing it. And we didn't know how to handle it. And Florida handled it very well on many different levels, not just opening up early, not opening up schools early. They opened up everything early and almost completely disrupted what was happening across the country because they did it when they did it. But by the time it made its way to California, it was a disaster. And the time period was so long that people didn't understand if they even, I'm not kidding you, Danny. I dealt with somebody literally this month that we had long discussions, no matter how much literature I gave them, that the state required. So much hand-holding during the COVID period on how to get them the funding. She totally disregarded it, chose not to do it, chose not to pay rent. And when it came time to collect, like, you owe this money. This is this money you owe. She's like, no, I just don't want to pay it. I don't think I should pay it. And now she's in danger of being evicted because she's a moron. And there's a major group of people that are in this same group that just felt like, oh no, the government just decided we don't have to pay rent during or mortgage or whatever during this period, which isn't true. And somehow that's the message that got communicated to them, even though they were bombarded with the correct message. They just chose not to listen to that.
Yeah, but does that strike you as a macroeconomic indicator?
No.
How many people across the country are as dumb as these California tenants?
More than I would ever assume.
Agreed.
More than I would ever hope.
Agreed. Is this a statistical constant?
Yes. I think people generically are dumb. We already said that earlier in this episode.
Yeah,
they're dumb. They're dumb. People are dumb. They're just not paying attention.
I'm not gonna fight that with you. I think what we need to do is get on to number 15, which is the coup de grace of our Pew Research study.
We are literally gonna finish this pod after this, right? Because
I don't.
This is the longest pod of all time.
I'm gonna save the rest of the legs for another episode. Number 15. Nearly 3 in 10 Americans express an unfavorable opinion of both major political parties. The highest share in at least 3 decades, according to a July survey. Overall, 28% of Americans have an unfavorable opinion of both the Republican and Democratic parties. You know what that means, motherfucker? 72% are independent.
Yeah.
Which means all you Bobs out there are in the majority.
I believe with 15 with all my heart.
This is more than quadruple the share in 1994 when just 6% of Americans viewed both parties negatively. Since the mid-1990s, the share of Americans with unfavorable views of both parties has more than quadrupled.
Because they suck.
It took you bitches 30 years, and you fucked it up for all of us.
Yeah, we hate them. You're giving us garbage or trash. And we're like, this is what you got. You're a country of millions and millions of people, and these are your 2 best.
So the reason I saved this as the last possible segment in this particular one was, I don't think we can disagree on this.
No, it's easy. Easy.
Since the mid-1990s, the share of Americans with unfavorable views of both parties has more than quadrupled. The percentage who have an unfavorable view of both the Republican and Democratic parties has gone from 6%. Now again, for you Bobs at home, in 1994, 6% of Americans hated both of them. That means 94% picked a side. Fast forward 30 years to 2023, and almost 1/3, that means 1 in every 3 Americans, hates both of them.
Yeah.
And the reason is because they're stupid.
They're stupid. Not us. Not the third.
Wow. We kind of
The
made
third
a
is
case
over.
earlier. Kind of made a case earlier in our discussion that everybody's stupid. But in terms of political parties are stupid.
Mm-hmm.
Now, here's the fun part. In this show, Danny will post a thought. Leon will post a thought. Mr. Jones will post a thought. And there's going to be different sides of an issue, and there's going to be debate. I would venture, if you asked Mr. Jones, he would say, I like the Democrats, but both parties are stupid. What would Leon say?
If I had to choose, I would lean more Republican, but both parties are stupid. I wish I had a better choice.
I think that would bring us the most joy at the Bottle of the Brown podcast. I think that wraps up our top story.
That wraps up our first two-parter here on the Bottle of Brown podcast. You can email us at bottleofbrown@gmail.com or give us a call at 984-262-7696. That's 984-BO-BROWN. Leave a message for Danny, Leon, the Midge, Mr. Jones, or any of our special guests. Tell us what you like or what you didn't like. We want to hear from you. If you like our show, please give us a 5-star review on your podcast app and share your favorite episode with a friend. Every positive review makes it easier for others to find the show and join the Bob community. We're on Apple, Spotify, or wherever you get your podcasts. Share a quiet drink with us next episode. Same brown time, same brown channel. bottleofbrown.com.
This place is dead anyway, man.